come to order here, and everybody's being real quiet, so we might as well get started. So fire things up there. We do have a quorum. So, we've got a number of bills here today. Let's start with minutes of February 27. Everybody's read them, I'm sure, so somebody want to move the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the minutes.
Thank you, Representative Lippert. Moves the minutes of February 27 for approval. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, opposed? Minutes are approved. So we've got House File 1713. Representative Morrison. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Explain your bill, if you would.
I will.
I would. Then let me look here what we're doing. Okay, I'm gonna move House File 1713 to be referred to the General Register. Representative Morrison,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
please proceed.
House File 1713 is a DNR recommended bill that I believe Representative Fabian carried last time. Thank you for that. It modifies statutory language as it pertains to the exemption of taking threatened or endangered species from ditches and roadways as part of road projects. Refining existing language will provide a consistent understanding of the threatened and endangered species law and exemptions that apply. This clarification will make it easier for road authorities to understand their responsibilities under the protection of threatened and endangered species law. And I do have a testifier with me.
Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed.
Chairman, committee members, I'm Ann Pierce. I'm Deputy Director of Ecological and Water Resources with the Department of Natural Resources. And first of all, I wanted to thank Representative for carrying this bill. We appreciate that. And as she said, it is to clarify language in statute. It's a relatively simple change from the word roadways, which has multiple definitions, to right-of-way, which has a standard definition within statutes so that everybody has the same understanding of what is meant by the law. Over the past 2 years, we've been working with the county road engineers, and I think we have a testifier from Pope County with the county engineers to work on language so that we agreed on having clarified language so that everybody understood what the law was pertaining to and where the exemption was within the law. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And, any questions coming up here? Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So just to clarify to the testifier, you are in agreement with this bill language, to the DNR testifier?
We are in agreement with, yeah.
Very good. Seeing no further questions at this time, there's another testifier. Representative Morrison.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is.
Good morning, welcome, and introduce yourself for the record and proceed, please.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members. My name is Brian Gies. I'm the Pope County Engineer and Secretary for Minnesota County Engineers Association. So today I'm testifying on behalf of the Minnesota County Engineers Association. As previously stated, since January 2017, the County Engineers Association has been meeting with MnDOT and the DNR regarding interpretation of this Minnesota Statute 84.0895, which has to do with the protection of threatened and endangered species. At that time, it was brought to our attention the DNR had been requiring permitting and mitigation fees for certain highway and bridge work in existing right-of-way, and we had a discrepancy in interpretation over the existing language that specifically exempted ditches and roadways, and so we feel that this compromise language reached together will adequately provide that exemption for existing highway right-of-ways.
Very good. Thank you for your testimony. Representative Luke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess one of the things that we've got a new definition here, or hopefully a better way to define stuff, but one of the areas that I guess I'd like to know a little more about is how do we define disturbed by construction or maintenance? For example, simply removing the vegetation, trees along the right-of-way, does that fit the definition of construction or maintenance? Because that's a kind of cyclical thing. Sometimes road authorities allow that area to grow up to a certain point, and then it becomes a vision hazard or whatever, and then they'll go ahead and remove it. So I think that's where some of the friction has been. If you've done that once, is that, regardless of what has happened in the succeeding 20 years, does that qualify as maintenance for the right-of-way? So you wouldn't have to worry about what decided to grow up after you performed that initial maintenance.
Yes, so whoever wants to respond here.
I would ask first from the county engineer's perspective, when you go out, take timber and trees and brush off, do you consider that maintenance, or is that your definition of maintenance, or what would fit into that toolkit?
Mr. Chair, Representative, the county engineer's definition of maintenance would be any work that involved improving or enhancing the safety and transportation around the existing roadway. That may include things as little as mowing, but more clearly when dirt has been moved or excavated to form a ditch from the native ground. I defer to the DNR for their response.
Mr. Chair, if we could get the DNR to kind of compare if that's their definition also, and particularly when we're talking about mowing or removing of vegetation. Obviously, it's pretty easy if we did a back slope or something like that.
Ms. Pierce?
Thank you, Chairman and committee. Yes, what you defined would be standard maintenance. So that kind of mowing and periodic tree removal, that would be standard maintenance. That would not fall under the language that is in there.
Now, that's a big step forward, because particularly in some of the roads, they get quite a bit of vegetation growing up, and then somebody comes along and says, well, there might be an endangered species in there, even though it may have been clear ground 15, 20 years before, and away we go. 2 years later, we're still trying to clean up the right-of-way, and so hopefully this will end any of those potential conflicts, because, like I say, the main goal here is public safety and highway safety, to make sure that we don't encumber line of sight and drainage and those types of things.
Thank you. Now, Representative Luke, we can only hope that spotted gnat doesn't become an endangered species.
There you go. Mr. Chair, does that include willow brush and buckbrush and alder brush too?
Someday. Any further questions for the testifiers or Representative Morrison? If not, I don't see any testifiers from the audience on this bill. Seeing none, some closing comments, Representative Morrison.
The House File 1713 is a very straightforward bill, just clarifying language. I would ask for your support. Thanks for hearing the bill.
Okay, so I'll renew my motion that House File 1713 be moved to the general register. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you for this bill, and going to the floor. So.
Thank you. Want to join me?
Another, okay. Good. And Representative Morrison, we're going to have House File 1885 in front of us here, and let me look. Where's the, okay, so House File, I'll move that House File 1885 be referred to Ways and Means. Representative Morrison, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House File 1885 will increase the surcharge on watercraft licenses from $5 to $20 over 3 years, to be paid over 3 years. This fee will provide more funding for the Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center, which is critical to doing long-term research, and will also help lake associations who pay for the management of much of AIS so that lakes can remain usable by the public. I do have a testifier with me today.
Very good. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jeff Forster, and I represent Minnesota Lakes and Rivers Advocates, and we would be in support of this bill. A little background, the AIS surcharge on watercraft hasn't been increased since it was put in place back in the 1980s. I think 1989 was the year. There was a couple dozen lakes that were infested with AIS at that point. Now we're close to 700. So just from that standpoint, it seems like it's time to catch up. Lake associations often bear the costs for managing aquatic invasive species, so treating the lakes to reduce the spread. For instance, Lake Coronis is spending $70,000 a year to treat starry stonewort at the public access, which reduces the risk of it being spread to other lakes because the concentration is lower in, at boat ramps. Some lakes are spending, over $100,000 a year on this. The DNR at one time had a grant program similar to what's described in this bill that helped defray some of those costs, and as their workload has increased, they had to cut that back a few years ago. And this also, I think, supports the effort to create more of a comprehensive program. So if we look at AIS, we need the DNR doing inspections. The counties have a role to play with their local resource managers. Restoring budget to the DNR through this surcharge would help them with training and outreach and coordination between the counties and what the counties are doing. Obviously, research is one of our best opportunities, but it's hard to do long-term research when you don't have a reliable source of funding to do long-term query. And then lake associations have a role to play because they're the ones that are on the ground. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to do my best to answer them, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I guess this is really for the bill author. Have we explored any other funding streams? We've got a lot of dedicated funds that we do through lottery, through sales tax that are directly supposed to benefit the habitat. Since the invasive species things is a constantly dynamic, changing thing, I would hope we don't consider those dedicated funds as can't be used because that's a level of effort within the DNR because there's something new pops up every year. So I guess what types of other ways have we looked at to fund this?
Morrison.
Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick, I think that the thought is that since this fee has not been raised since 1989, and it already is a pretty low fee, and it applies directly in that the boats that, quite frankly, spread aquatic invasive species, it seems like a logical place to increase the fees very slightly, really.
Representative.
Mr. Chair, a little bit of follow-up in there. So there are a lot of smaller watercraft that I guess I think of boats. Yeah, there's a $50,000 boat on a $20,000 trailer behind a $80,000 pickup. But what about the smaller watercraft that have to be licensed that may not ever leave the lake? Is there any exemption or way to deal with that, or is this just going to get one size fits all?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick. The $20 fee is a starting point. I think that this will probably get sorted out, hopefully in the Finance Division, once we get there, assuming we do, from Ways and Means. But your point is well taken. There are different kinds of boats.
Mr. Chair, I would ask for a roll call vote on this item. Thank you.
So noted. Other Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the testifier or the bill author, part of the money for this fee is going to go to local lake associations. I like that, but sometimes they have a difficult time coming up with a match. Will this require a match from lake associations to qualify for this grant as well?
Okay.
Forrester?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I am not certain. I believe as it's written, it would not.
Can we?
But can we check with,
Okay, go ahead.
but perhaps we can get a reading on it from someone who's better able to read this language.
Okay, we'll ask research for it. Please proceed, Dave.
Mr. Chair, members, the language right now does not specify that a match would be required, whether or not the DNR implemented one would get to them.
Mr. Benson?
Well, thanks again, Mr. Chair, but as I recall, some of the earlier grant money going to counties did require a match. So is this going to be confusing? Is it going to be two separate pots of money going to counties and lake associations, one requiring a match and one not requiring a match? That's just a question that I'd pose to the bill author as this bill moves along to clarify that situation.
Any comments, Representative Morrison?
Mr. Chair, Representative, that's a good point. We'll have to clarify that. Thank you.
Representative Hines?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I'm reading the bill here, I'm not seeing it, but maybe I've missed it. To the bill author, Representative Morrison, is there any kind of exemption for my nonprofit organizations, my camps? We've talked about that in previous committees. This is absolutely a massive issue in my district with dozens and dozens of camps and thousands of canoes and all sorts of other kinds of watercraft. Am I missing it, or what's the purpose, or where is it here or not?
Representative Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Heinzman, I don't believe that it is in this version, but again, this is a starting point, and that's certainly something that we can talk about and consider.
Representative Hines?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, it would be, I think, a really wise move to consider exempting them. We're talking about kids literally that wouldn't go to camp because of something like this, and it wouldn't just be a couple. We're talking about probably hundreds of kids, and we're talking about a lot of donated money to even make that possible for them, and putting something like this together on organizations that literally never move their boats. Their equipment stays in the lake and will never leave until it's probably no good. I hope you take that very seriously.
Perhaps, Representative Heinzman, there could be in this process education for these youngsters about AIS in lieu of a stamp, something like that. We should be educating those youngsters, so.
I don't.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't disagree, Mr. Chair. I'm always nervous when we have some kind of a mandate from the state of Minnesota.
Understood. Representative Becker-Finn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did just want to point out as we talk about the cost, it's a 3-year license. So we're still only looking at $6.67 per year. I only own a canoe, and I don't have any trouble paying that. I understand there may be members who own 13 boats. But even if you owned 13 boats, you're still only looking at $86.71 for all of those boats total. So I think it's a very small amount to pay for something that's absolutely very important. So I thank you for bringing this forward. And I think to the previous comments, I think, looking at ways that we're not negatively impacting a nonprofit camp, we can easily, amend it to make it make sense for that. But I will say there are also camps that compete in regattas and, sailing competitions and all kinds of other events where they are transporting boats from lake to lake. So I would just want to point that out as well, but do thank you for bringing it forward. It's a good bill. Thank you.
You have, Representative Bull.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is there a companion bill for this in the Senate?
Representative Morrison.
Mr. Chair, Representative Bowe, we are looking for a Senate author.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Representative Hines. Very good. Other, Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Morrison, in subdivision 4 on page 2, line 2.8, when we're talking about the account, what about just using the LCCMR dollars for that instead of, if all Minnesotans benefit from aquatic invasive species research and so forth, why are we just targeting watercraft owners?
Representative Morrison.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, I believe part of the idea is to increase the amount of available resources to study aquatic invasive species.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, you can do that with the LCCMR money going to the Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center. That's my point. And then, can you walk me through exactly what is the process that's used at DNR for a lake association to apply for a grant?
Representative Morrison.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, I would defer to my testifier for that question if you're able to help me with that.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, maybe Bob Meyer can describe it in detail. I've never applied for a grant, but as I understand it, they would open the granting process and it was a first come, first served basis. Lake associations would apply through the DNR and then receive the money in time to do the treatments over the summer.
Commissioner Meyer.
Mr. Chairman, members, for the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner DNR. I have with me Ann Pierce, our Deputy Director from Ecological Water Resources as well. Just to clear up a couple things, we do require a match for our grant program. In the past, this grant program has been eliminated because of the need to provide resources to ensure the county dollars. So that, just so people know, there's $10 million of local government aid that goes through the tax committee that's distributed to counties based upon the number of water access sites they have and the number of parking spots they have for AIS-related activities. So they do inspections, they do education, they fund staff, things like that. We reduced our grant program several years ago to make sure that we had the resources available to provide the assistance counties need. We have to train over 1,000. There's over 1,000 county funded inspectors that are inspecting watercraft as well. We need to make sure that they're educated, they're certified, they're doing this in a way to not create a problem at the boat landing, so to speak. Some of these times, sometimes things at boat landings could get kind of heated if we don't manage them the right way. So there's all those assistance activities that we decided we needed to spend money on from our existing dollars rather than the grant program. This bill would reinstate funding for that grant program, as would the DNR's AIS surcharge increase within the governor's budget, but there would be a lot less activities under the governor's budget initiatives. So with that backdrop, I'm going to let Ann Pierce talk about how we do our grant program and what that looks like.
Please introduce yourself.
I'm Ann Pierce, Deputy Director of Ecological and Water Resources with the DNR. Chairman, committee members, we, at this point, when we last did our grant program, what we try to do is to distribute the money evenly out to the people who are applying it. So at one time, we had quite a bit of grant money, around $900,000. We were able to give each applicator a fairly good share of their cost. And so their share was maybe around 50%, ours was around 50%. As we lost that money, we still wanted to distribute it so that people who needed it could get it, but their share of the cost then went up because of that. So the way we try to do it is, especially those first set of grants that come in the spring, pretty much everyone gets a grant. It's just, as our money was reduced, it got to be a smaller amount.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Pierce, does the agency charge an administrative fee against the grant application? So if there's $900,000 in the account, how much actually gets out the door? Does the DNR withhold some for administrative costs?
Chairman, committee members, no, if there's $900,000 for grants, $900,000 goes out. Sometimes, however, just to, if you apply for a grant and for whatever reason you can't get that treatment done, then that grant money still is sitting there, right? So if a lake association applied for a grant and it came to July and the weather conditions weren't right or whatever that might be, they may have remaining grant money. That money would come back to us and then we'd redistribute it again.
Representative Baby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, just a general comment. A few weeks ago, several of the resort owners were visiting me in my office, and they're talking about how they're watching every dime and so forth in their business operation. It's becoming more and more important and more difficult for what I would call the mom and pop resorts to make ends meet, and I'm concerned about this on them. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I just might briefly address a question that the committee had regarding boats that don't leave lakes. Even if you have a boat that sits on a boat lift, it doesn't mean that you're not a possible vector for bringing an AIS into that water body. What we see is people who have lakeshore that have docks and have water lifts, some of those people buying new equipment or moving equipment, even though there's a 21-day decontamination period, so if you're buying a new dock or a boat lift, you have to keep your old system out of the water, like on your front lawn or someplace, for 21 days before you can sell it. We've seen that the substantial infestations have occurred because of people bringing in a used boat lift from one water body or another. For example, if somebody were to sell, and this is a case I dealt with last year, a person on Lake Minnetonka, zebra mussels, other issues infested, wanted to sell their boat lift to somebody up north. They said, what do I do? And I said, hold on, you have to wait 21 days, things like that. The movement of these water-related equipment that we talk about is something that we're very concerned about as well. I know Otter Tail County is talking about registering docks so they can track where dock movements are going. So just because you may have a boat and you keep it on your lake year-round doesn't mean there's not a potential for you to bring in some vector that would cause that water to become infested.
Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So just to clarify, with this new reinstated DNR program, we're looking at a 50% match to lake associations. Is that correct?
So basically depends on how much money that surcharge will generate for the grants. So how many boats of those $2 that go to the grants, how much would that add up to? And so it's probably going to be somewhere between 400,000 and 700,000 or something like that. And so depending on where it lies, the more it is, the more we can match. But there's a certain cost per acre for treatment that, you know, the herbicide costs and all that. So what we will still try to do is distribute that evenly, and the person applying for it then would have to pay the rest of the cost of the treatment. And it'll depend on how much we get, how much is brought in from that surcharge. So if you have 600,000 boats compared to 800,000 boats, you're going to have potentially $400,000 coming in from the 600,000 boats and potentially 900,000 coming in from the 8,000 boats. So then you would have a different pot of money to deal with.
Mr. Chairman, just really quickly on that, we'll work with the author and the stakeholders and Representative Anderson, if you wish to be involved in that conversation, on what parameters should be put around this, what should the match be. I think it's important to have some level of match, but again, that level of match will provide for how much grants we can provide out there as well. So we'll be looking for legislative input and guidance on that. And Ms. Pierce is absolutely right. This whole thing and the author, it's scalable. How much do we want to do? How much prevention? How many grants do we want to do? What should the surcharge look like? And who should be paying for it? So.
Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm realizing that I should probably add a little bit of background. I made a comment specifically about transporting boats, and I'm not sure, maybe the commissioner and I think maybe Representative Becker-Finn also mentioned something. Haven't been privy to some of the conversations. I have lots of lake associations in my district, and there's an ongoing conversation about boats being transported from other places all over the state of Minnesota to lakes in my district. And we're troubleshooting, trying to figure out how do we avoid that contamination coming from other places. And there's those that would like to do some pretty drastic things like close accesses, which obviously that's a problem. And then there's others that have talked about possibly incentivizing people to keep boats in one location as opposed to transporting them. And we may incentivize them by lowering some fees or other things. Those are just ideas that lake associations are talking about. You may not know about that, but that is a part of the conversation. And by raising fees on boats that are literally bought brand new, put in a body of water in front of a camp, oftentimes a camp that's funded through donations, and it never leaves that body of water, there may be something there that we need to look at, try to incentivize them, or in this particular case, I would probably be looking to completely exempt my nonprofit camps.
Mr. Chairman, on that
Commissioner.
note, if you want to upset the resorting community, tell the resorts that their customers can't bring their own boat into their resort. I've had conversations with them before, and obviously, if we want to prohibit the movement of boats, it's one thing, but I know there's a lot of people who invest a lot of money in their boats, and they want to take them up to Lake X, Y, or Z to go fishing, so it's just something we need to be careful if we're looking at that.
Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Commissioner, and that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is there a way to incentivize people to, when they come to a lake, to maybe rent a boat as opposed to bring one? That is a conversation that's happening inside lake associations. That's not something I'm telling the DNR that needs to be done. That's not something that I think is even really a bigger part of the conversation, because it was brought up by yourself and Representative Becker-Finn. We're having that conversation right now, and that's why there needed to be a clarification. This is something that lake associations are talking about as they're troubleshooting. How do we stop aquatic invasive species?
Very good. Representative Bluey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess this is primarily for the DNR. At least the counties I'm familiar with in my district, both have got very aggressive local programs funded through that process you talked about, where we get the money down to the local level. They've invested in a huge amount of equipment, using a variety of county resources plus volunteer resources. So this grant program, if it did go back into effect, how would the DNR look? Would they look down at the local level, for example, see exactly what Crow Wing County or Aiken County is doing relative to working with lake associations before they kind of went in on top and said, oh, we're gonna do this? It would seem like we're setting ourselves up here for potentially a conflict. It would make me, it might make sense to let one person ride the horse as opposed to sticking 2 or 3 on the back and maybe confusing the horse.
Who's got the horse up there? Ms. Pierce.
Thank you, Chairman, committee members. Yeah, so we are working with a lot of the counties, and the counties are investing differently, but most of them are investing in the prevention side of things, which is the inspectors. And, we would be happy to continue to work, like Commissioner Meyer said, we'd be happy to continue to work with people to see how this kind of money would be distributed and what those qualifications would be and how we determine how to distribute it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, the important thing is, excuse me, it costs money to get to get money down there to manage a grant, and so we've got some counties that are doing essentially that in a variety of ways, and so rather to run dual approaches, it would seem like it might be a little more efficient to stick with one way, get more money down there. That's my thoughts, at least looking at the what I hear from the lakeshore associations, the resorters in my area, plus the county, as to we've really over time built a really solid, aggressive approach. And like you say, right now that approach is really focused on prevention. But as I drive around in my district, I see equipment sitting there and people literally at all kinds of accesses on a daily basis. So I mean, I've just got some great reservations here that we need more funds. I mean, that's always a problem, but I just see that this is maybe we should send those funds directly to the county as opposed to reinstating a program or boning up a program that's kind of run from St. Paul down here as opposed to at the local level.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Meyer.
just really briefly on that, I know we have other bills in the committee. We have regional aquatic invasive species specialists in all 4 regions of our state that work very closely with the counties in their districts. So it's to take some words from Mr. Forrester, as we were talking earlier, it's a 3-legged stool. It's research, it's prevention, and it's inspection. And we're making sure that we're working very coordinatedly, hand in hand with the counties throughout the state, understanding what their needs are, trying to work with them on how to increase or support their activities that are there, but also work with the lake associations and fund these grant activities that they would like to see reinstated. So we're working very closely to ensure that those dollars are spent as best as possible and we get the biggest bang for the buck. And this would just help us be able to do that.
Representative Acom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And testifiers, I think we've heard several comments about people who would be potentially impacted by this, whether it's resort owners or camps or people who live on lakes. And I think one thing they all have in common is that they really want a healthy lake. And so because we're seeing that it's water-related recreations that are causing the transfer from lake to lake, I think it's imperative that especially the users of the lake, whether they are residential and only on that lake, they want their lake to be healthy. I think it's important that we all play a piece in ensuring that going forward. And so I appreciate the bill being brought up, and I appreciate the attention being put to it. I had a quick question. I know that there are licenses for canoes, and we have other kinds of watercraft, especially now today, like the paddle boards that go from lake to lake. Are they ever seen as an issue? Or something? I know that I don't think they're licensed, maybe just registered, and just wondering how that's looked at.
Commissioner Meyer.
Mr. Chair, representatives, they are registered, depending if they're over 10 feet, I believe is the number. They do require a registration fee. They certainly can be a vector. Anything that can contain water, you know, they have a little handle spout. Some of them have cup holders or whatever. If they aren't drained completely and washed and taken care of, just like any other water-related equipment that we have, the trampolines, right? If you leave a trampoline in there, the anchor rope could get contaminated, things like that. So it's important to realize anything that you have in the water could be a possible vector. We're working with duck hunters, for example, as they're pulling out their decoys in the muck, making sure that their duck boats are clean and their decoys are decontaminated, you know, things like that. So every place we can work to educate people, we're trying to do so right now.
Thank you.
Representative Bull.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regard to the grants to the lake associations, can the smaller lake associations utilize in-kind grants with volunteer time and things, or does it have to be a dollar for dollar?
Chairman, committee members, they can use that. Typically, what they're using for invasive aquatic plants, you need a permit. So coming to us with the grant program is kind of a one-stop shop. It makes it easy for the applicant to apply for the grant and get the permit at the same time. Typically, the grant is helping pay for the actual herbicide that they're using.
Very good. I don't know if I made the call to the audience, if anybody wants to testify for or against the bill. Seeing no further questions or testifiers, I'll renew my motion that, I gotta look back here now. Do you remember? You can do it too.
House
Representative-
File 1885.
Yeah, be referred to Ways and Means. And roll call's been requested. So the clerk will take the roll. The chair votes aye.
Becker-Finn,
Yes.
Lewick,
No.
Acom,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Poe,
Yes.
Claflin,
Yes.
Fabian,
No.
Gomez,
Yes.
Green,
No.
Hanson,
Yes.
Heinzman,
No.
Lippert,
Yes.
Wagenius.
Yes.
We are our tally is 9 in favor and 5 opposed, so 1885 is on its way to Ways and Means. Thank you, Representative Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. And just of note, I had the time of the committee wrong, so I brought cookies thinking we were in the afternoon. So if you'd like a morning cookie, please help yourself.
Okay, we are ready to proceed, and the agenda list House File 569, an Eklund bill, and that bill is being added to 1586, House File 1586, the Becker-Finn bill that we're about to hear. So,
Mr. Chair,
Becker-Finn, please.
Mr. Chair, I would move House File 1586, and you'll have to remind me where you would like this to go next.
And let's, okay, so House File 1586 is recommend pass and go to Ways and Means, refer to Ways and Means. So it is in front of us, and please proceed.
All right, Mr. Chair, I will start with the amendments, hoping we can go through these quickly. First, I will move the A3 amendment, and what that does, members, is it removes 2 sections that were originally in the bill. And if, not sure if members, if you have this handout, so it's section 3 is removed, and then we're removing the piece relating to newspapers so that nothing will change regarding the publishing of notices in newspapers. So that is the A3 amendment.
Questions regarding the A3 amendment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? A3 is adopted.
All right.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move the A2 amendment. The A2 amendment is the language that's in House File 1569, the Eklund 569. And I do have a question for Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor, do you know if this language incorporates the author's amendment, the updated language that's in our packets for 569?
Ms. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, members, it doesn't incorporate the A1 amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this adds the provisions from 569, and Representative Eklund is here if anyone has questions about that. I understand there's bipartisan support and is a request from local government that we do this.
Any questions from members regarding the adoption of, this was the A2. Sorry, 2. Seeing none, all in favor of the A2 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A2 is adopted.
All right, Mr. Chair, now we will move the A4. The A4 amendment is something that Representative Lehman brought to me. It involves a community radio station in her district in Grand Rapids, and is another issue that was brought to her by her constituents. Local government and the community radio station are in agreement, have asked us to do this so they can move their project along.
Any questions to the A2, A4, sorry, A4 amendment? There we go. Okay, I'm going to get on the right page. Any questions to the A4 amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the A4, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? A4 is adopted. Do we have the bill in the shape you wish? Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do. And now I will turn it over to my testifier from the DNR to walk through, hopefully expediently, on the provisions that are in this year's lands bill.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Susan Damon. I'm the acting director of the DNR Division of Lands and Minerals. And I'm here to talk about the portions of the bill that were in the original House File 1586. For new members of the legislature, this is the DNR's 2019 Lands Bill, and the Lands Bill typically includes authorization for state park or state forest boundary changes, private sales of surplus land, and public sales of surplus land bordering water. The Lands Bill also typically includes technical or policy changes relating to real estate transactions, and this bill, as we've seen already this morning, gets combined with other bills generally relating to sales of tax forfeited land and becomes the Omnibus Lands Bill. Just a bit of background. In 2018, the DNR undertook a continuous improvement project about our land sales program, and a couple of the amendments in this proposed to law in this bill arise out of that continuous improvement project. So Section 1 changes the time period for publishing a notice of proposed conveyance to resolve boundary line issues affecting state land and adjacent land. It changes publication period from between 15 and 30 days before conveyance to at least 30 days before conveyance. This is a technical change that was recommended by our attorneys because the current law allows for only a 15-day window to get all of the signatures on a boundary line agreement, and that can sometimes be difficult to accomplish. Section 2 arises out of our continuous improvement project, and this amends Minnesota statute section 92.115 to increase from $50,000 to $100,000 the estimated market value of state land requiring an appraisal before it is offered for sale. We estimate that this will allow us to expedite the valuation process for a number of sale parcels. Section 3 was omitted. Section 4 is amending Minnesota statute section 94.09 to specify which state departments and agencies and universities the DNR must notify of lands that may be declared surplus. Under current law, we're required to send out 144 notices to state agencies, most of which do not have any interest in acquiring surplus state land. So this is an attempt to make our sales process more efficient by limiting the notices to those agencies and entities that may actually have an interest. Section 5 amends Minnesota statute section 9410. There are two changes here. One is a parallel to section 2 and increases the amount from $50,000 to $100,000 of estimated market value for land requiring an appraisal. The next change, starting in line point 432, requires the DNR to first offer surplus state lands within the boundary of a federally recognized Indian tribes reservation to the tribe. Under current law, the DNR is required to notify counties, townships, cities, and school districts of surplus land and to offer them the opportunity to purchase the land. There is no such requirement in current law to offer the land to tribal governments, and so this amendment would change that and require the DNR to offer the tribal government the opportunity to purchase surplus state land within the reservation boundary. Section 6 is an addition to the boundary of Glendalough State Park in Otter Tail County. The addition is 152.95 acres, and this is a property that includes over 2,200 feet of undeveloped lakeshore on Blanche Lake. It's in a major bird migration corridor, and the county and township are supportive of this change. Section 7 deletes 10.1 acres from the boundary of St. Croix State Park, adjusting the statutory boundary to follow the curve of Trunk Highway 48. Section 8 authorizes the sale of 16 acres of surplus land bordering Perch Lake in Carlton County to the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. This parcel is isolated from other state land, is within the reservation boundary. Section 9 authorizes the public sale of 0.54 acres of surplus land bordering Woman Lake in Cass County. Again, this is an isolated parcel of state land. It is a property that the DNR acquired as a gift. It was a Farmers Home Administration mortgage foreclosure. There are currently federal deed restrictions on the property. We're working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to move those to another parcel and then would like to put it up for public sale. Section 10 authorizes the sale of 6.4 acres of surplus state land bordering Big Sand Lake in Hubbard County to the county at no cost. The property was originally acquired for public water access, but there are actually 2 other public water accesses on this same lake, and it is not needed. Section 11 authorizes the public sale of 4.9 acres of surplus state land bordering the Snake River in Kanabec County. When the DNR acquired this parcel, we made a commitment to Kanabec County to split the parcel and sell the portion that lies north of the Snake River. Section 12 authorizes the public sale of 0.48 acres of surplus state land bordering Big Pine Lake in Otter Tail County. This is land that is separated from the current public water access and not needed for public water access purposes. Section 13 authorizes the public sale of 10 acres of surplus land bordering the Zumbro River in Wabasha County. This is a Division of Forestry administered land. It's a small size parcel, and the terrain is steep and it's difficult to manage for forest activity. Section 14, the final section of the land authorizes the no-fee conveyance of 4.1 acres of surplus state land bordering Spellman Lake in Yellow Medicine County to the United States. This is a public water access, but the lake levels are low. It's primarily used by hunters who are accessing the adjacent Spellman waterfowl production area. The federal government will keep this open for public access. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Members, Representative Louis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions back on, I guess it would be Section 5, beginning at line 4.32. As I understand this, this would provide the tribal government at a reservation with first right of refusal. In other words, before any land can be disposed of, you would first have to go to the tribe. They would have to refuse, or I'm assuming they'd have to somehow respond and say no. Then if there was a local unit of government that existed within the tribal boundary, then they would have an opportunity, if that land happened to somehow be of benefit to them. I guess, is that the correct stepping stones on how this would work?
Mr. Chair, Representative Louis, yes, that is correct.
And I guess,
Representative Louis.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the next question then, how many cities, local units of government, do we have within tribal boundaries? Within the, I believe we do have at least a fair number of small cities.
Ms. Damon.
Mr. Chair, Representative Louis, I would have to get that information for you. I don't have that at hand.
Yeah, I would suggest you maybe take a look at the White Earth boundaries and so I guess it would seem, I've got no issue with the concept here, but it would seem like if we're going to do this, that we would want to put the DNR in a position where they can basically get all proposals on the table before they have to make a decision. When I say, I'm talking specifically, if there's other local units of government that may or may not have a legitimate need for this, it would seem that at this point, the DNR has got to go here first before they can even make that offer. And that just seems like to get to the point quickly, it would seem like you just want to make the offer to everybody. And then the DNR is in a position where they can take a look and they're going to have to make a judgment. as to what might be the best, the appropriate thing to follow. It also looks like the tribes would have to pay full value, period. As I understand that, right? There's no negotiation. You pay fair market value, but you could turn right around and a local unit of government, you could make a completely different agreement that would literally be a dollar in consideration. Is that correct?
Ms. Davis?
Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick, I believe that we currently do sell to local units of government for full market value under this provision.
There's no provision that you could negotiate something less. Okay.
Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick, we do have the ability under other sales laws there is a sales provision that allows us to go to the Executive Council and get authorization to sell for less than market value.
Yeah. You wouldn't be able to do that exclusively. So I guess I'm just a little concerned that we might want to take a look at this and make sure that we're treating all those local governments in the same manner as opposed to, and I appreciate the concept here. I just, it would seem like it could create a situation where it puts a local unit of government might have a legitimate need in a secondary position.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Lewick, and I guess this is a good opportunity to kind of inform folks of the history and why this provision is so important the way that it is written. The point is exactly to give the tribes the right of first refusal. And that I would, I can't speak for the DNR, but I would guess that is in recognition of the history of why we have so much land within reservation boundaries that is not owned by the tribe. And that puts us back to the allotment period when, it's kind of, folks may be more familiar with the idea of 40 acres and a mule. Sort of the same sort of concept was done to our Native communities where the federal government, to the detriment of Native communities, decided that they were going to decide who was Native and who was not. And instead of taking all of the land within the reservation and just to use an easier number, let's say there's 50 members of the tribe. Instead of taking that entire reservation and dividing it by 50 and dividing it up equally, they came up with a smaller number of acres that each person would get, and then they sold off the rest. And that is why we're in a situation where if you look at Leech Lake, technically the boundaries of their reservation is one of the largest reservations in the country, but well over half the land within the reservation boundaries is not owned by Leech Lake. And that is problematic at best and speaks to a long history of putting our Native communities and our Native nations at a disadvantage. And so I think this provision does exactly what you said and would put our tribal governments in the first right of first refusal. That is exactly the point. But I would say that is good policy, and that's recognition of a history of why some of the disparities exist and kind of where we're at. And it also speaks to, we just had Sovereignty Day. Our Native nations, they have sovereignty, they have rights that counties and cities and townships don't have. And, there might be folks listening to this who don't like that, but that is the reality of our law. And so I think this is a recognition of that, and I think is an excellent provision that is good policy.
Representative Luke.
Oh, thank you. And say you're almost preaching to the choir on this. I from a standpoint of Minnesota's past history, my only concern here is, though, that let's take a small town that's trying to work on a flood control issue or something, or they've got a street or a township that's trying to work on a road right of way, and they simply want a little sliver of land to expand a road right of way, or they need to do a flood control structure, something like that. And it would seem like we'd want to approach that just on a straightforward, on the merit. I seriously doubt that a tribal government would object to something like that, but it just seems like we don't allow for that, and so that's my only concern. That, in other words, we put the stepping stone order in there that you've got to go through a right of refusal before you could offer it to the rest of the potential folks. I'm only talking about a very tiny element here. I'm not talking about general land parcels. I'm talking about situations where you have a local unit of government that's got responsibilities just like the tribal government to serve their citizens. And if they needed a small piece of land, they're put in a second position. And in both cases, we're trying to serve a general public good.
Mr. Chair.
President Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill, I mean, this language does allow for that. It's as simple as the tribe saying, no, thank you. Right of first refusal sounds like very legal and like that's potentially something very complicated, but it isn't necessarily complicated. And I would guess in most of our communities, if it is an issue of flood control or some other, general public good, I would think that all of our governments would be working together to address that. So, I mean, the option is there. It's not like it's making in this imaginary scenario, it's not like it's saying that the county absolutely, that the tribe absolutely has to buy it or that the county absolutely could not buy it. It's just asking them first.
If I may, let me just jump in a little bit. I'm just going to relay to you, in my 41 years on Leech Lake Reservation, the cooperation between communities. Many in the communities are native, as you know, and it's working pretty good at this point, especially with the counties and the communities. So,
And if I could, Mr.
Yes, sir.
I'll follow on with that. I think particularly Aiken County's got a significant amount of tribal land spread out throughout the county in some fairly concentrated areas. And so, no, I'd say I'm just talking about one little thing here way down the road that would seem like we just need to be aware of that there could be a use, and I believe White Earth is the only tribal government that has got actual operating municipalities within the boundaries of the reservation, but I could be mistaken.
yes, Leech Lake has several.
Okay, yeah.
So it's working pretty good, but thank you for your concern. Looking further, Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have some questions, but first I just want to clarify on this conversation that you're having now. Because something that always gets passed by, and there's no secret that I am against public lands, and I don't care who owns them. I don't care if it's a tribe, the state, the federal government. They're killing us in greater Minnesota. And the White Earth Nation is finding that out now too, because there's a severe lack of funding. And they don't have a funding source. And the more land that disappears takes away our local funding source. But that's maybe an argument for another day. I think that in Monoman County, at least, we already practice this. So the language isn't really going to do much for or against my county. But I do need to make clear, we always talk about reservation land, like somehow or another, it's either part of the reservation or it's owned by somebody who's not native, and that's simply not true. It's just simply not true. There's many hundreds, if not thousands of acres that are owned by members of the nation, including me. I own my own land. I pay property taxes on my own land. So there's members of the tribe, and I'm sure Leech Lake is the same. I'm not familiar with Leech Lake, but on White Earth, it's open reservation. But it's not just, you're not just hurting non-tribal members when you take this stuff off of the private sales. Because there's a lot of people out there who are native that want to own their own property. So that's just my little vent that never gets talked about. But I do have a couple of questions. There's a land sale in, this is for the testifier. There's a land sale in Hubbard County, and they're selling back a piece of property that was at one time purchased by the DNR for
a lake access. Can you tell me where that is and something about, a little bit about that property? Does it have a house on it? Did it have a house on it before they purchased it?
Ms. Damon?
Mr. Chair, Representative Green, no, I do not believe it has a house on it. It's on the southern part of Big Sand Lake, and it is adjacent to tax forfeited land. And the DNR would like to convey that property to Hubbard County at no cost, and Hubbard County would like to combine it with that tax forfeited land parcel and sell it.
Representative Green?
Mr. Chair, I'm thrilled at that. I really am. But the reason that I brought it up is because a few years ago, we had a huge battle over a parcel that they were going to use to expand, the DNR was going to use to expand access to the water. It was worth over $300,000. The people put it up for sale and got an offer on it. And the DNR, who will tell you time and again that they don't outbid people, came in and upped the bid by $20,000, bought the land away from a private person, and I believe they tore down the house. And I was just wondering if this was the one that they now decided. So I'll just check that out. The other one is in section 14, although probably not a very big piece of property, it's in Yellow Medicine County. Now, this land is going to be given over to the United States. Now, on this piece of property, is there payments now, or and will there be after it's conveyed over to the United States government?
Ms. Damon?
Mr. Chair, Representative Green, yes, there are PILT payments on the property now. I don't have the exact figure of what those are. And I believe that there would be federal PILT on the property after it's conveyed. I can try to verify that for you.
Representative Green?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd appreciate that. Then one last thing in section 13, I think this is the one where you're going to sell a piece of property that's not manageable. And I see this a lot in the DNR when you look up what is being sold. And a lot, quite a few of the parcels that you see are either half underwater, no public access, and no one's going to buy them. No one can buy them. And so I'm wondering, is there any viable use for this small piece of property that you're putting up for sale?
Ms. Damon?
Mr. Chair, Representative Green, the Division of Forestry is the administrator of this parcel, and they have determined that it's difficult to conduct forestry activity on the parcel. As you know, the DNR has a lot of parcels that were acquired, many years ago, and perhaps we were not applying the same strict acquisition criteria that we are. We're continually evaluating our land portfolio and trying to determine which parcels we should keep, which parcels we should divest of. And my assumption is that this is, and I can go back and get more information about this parcel for you, but my assumption is that this is a parcel that's been in state ownership for quite some time, and it probably would not be the kind of parcel that we would acquire today.
Thank you.
Representative Fabian?
Just real quickly, Mr. Chair, on the bill on page 5, lines 5.5 through 5.7, it says that the tribe has up to 2 years from the date of accepted offer to begin paying for the lands in the manner provided by law. Can you walk me through that, what that means, and then also will we provide the same opportunity to other units of government?
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, that under current law, a local unit of government also has up to 2 years to begin paying for the property. So they would provide us notice of interest, and then they might need to raise the funds or seek the funds to actually make the payment, and then we hold that property for 2 years.
Thank you.
Very good. I have no other members on the list for questions and comments. Anybody in the audience that wishes to testify on this bill? Seeing none. Representative Becker-Finn, some closing comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank everyone for the discussion on the always exciting annual lands bill. And I would renew my motion, well, I guess, move that House File 1586 as amended be referred to Ways and Means.
Very good. You've heard the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bill is moving to Ways and Means, Representative Becker-Finn. Thank you. Representative Brand.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome, and please, if you would, I need to get the right paper in front of me here, sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna move that House File 1509 be laid over for possible inclusion, Representative Brand, and if you would please tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House File 1509 seeks an appropriation for the Minnesota River in order to set a new river eutrophication standard for the main channel of the Minnesota River. I represent District 19A, and on two edges of the border are the Minnesota River, and so it's a large part of my district is the Minnesota River. And I would like to have a chance to have my testifier today, Pat Henges from the city of Mankato, testify also on this bill. But I will say that, overall, the Minnesota River is unhealthy. Sediment clouds the water, phosphorus causes algae, nitrogen poses a risk to humans and fish. We've got some issues that we need to address. And the standard that we have right now isn't working. And so what we're asking is for a new standard that is perhaps a little bit more equitable for all the communities and all the partners up and down the river. And with that, I would like to pass it to Pat Henges to testify.
Mr. Henry, please introduce yourself for the record and proceed.
I'm Pat Henges, Hentges. I'm with the City of Mankato. I'm the city manager. Chairman, basically at this point in time, Mankato and I would point out St. Peter really have been leaders in the development of water quality initiatives along the river. We have a long history really of going above and beyond essentially the standards that are imposed on us, and in efforts to really ensure that the stakeholders in this river really can enjoy high quality recreation and agriculture and essentially domestic water in the case of Mankato. We are leaders in the MS4 program, in stormwater discharge. We have a leading program in nitrate trading. We've been one of the water reclamation projects in the state. And we've also developed a number of non-point treatment projects in terms of runoff. I would also point out that 75% of Mankato's water comes from shallow river collector wells. So the river is paramount to our success and our economic vitality. We brought this legislation forward as we have concerns with the river eutrophication standards that are being proposed for the Minnesota River. We believe the standards are not a strategy that will really result in addressing the water quality challenges along the river. In the first part of the bill, we actually propose allocating funding to the MPCA for a site-specific standard. We believe that the current one-size-fits-all standard really does not, when applied to the Minnesota River, really does not result in an improvement in algal growth. And in other words, it won't do anything really for an emerging algal problem. We are not asking that the agency lower or raise the standard.
We simply are asking that we use a standard that's tailored to the unique characteristics and aspects of the Minnesota River. The Minnesota River is different than the St. Croix or the pools of on upper Mississippi. It has a unique characteristic. It has a lot of dynamics to it. We've been raising this issue for nearly 3 years with the MPCA. It's been, very frankly, quite hard to get the data, a straight answer in terms of the standards from their proposing and what they claim they will do. We've hired 2 different experts at a cost of, to the city of Mankato, $100,000 to address this issue. Very frankly, with the new administration, we're encouraged. Just last week, a long attempted meeting with, or this past week, I should say, a long attempted meeting with our scientific expert occurred with the MPCA scientists, and we believe we're on the right path. With respect to the second part of the bill, and this is just as important, our goal is really to develop an actual plan to address water quality issues in the Minnesota River. We believe that part of that bill will involve incentives for a trading program, expanding what we're doing on point-to-point trading, but also non-point-to-point source trading. The second part, we hope that we can allocate funding to optimize wastewater treatment plant facilities, make sure the investment that we all are making, the 40 point sources along that river, that we're making the right investments and optimizing the capital investment that our local citizens in the state of Minnesota participate in. And then finally, I think the final aspect of the stakeholder group will develop management practices for non-point source projects. We have, for example, a demonstration project that we're proposing. It's about a $10 million project, and we think that can be one of the many examples in terms of achieving water quality from non-point sources. We recognize that really the top-down government approach for stakeholder groups just very frankly hasn't worked. And that's why we're asking that Minnesota State University, the Water Resource Center, which has a strong history in the area, a lot of support in the area, essentially be the facilitator or convening group of this stakeholder group. Understand that this stakeholder is a voluntary process. We're hoping we can bring together the environmentalists, the agricultural community, the other stakeholders along this river and convene this group. We believe that that facilitation really is best served by an independent group as opposed to a state agency. Again, pulling this all together, we believe we want the right standard, we want the stakeholder process, and in fact, that is something that has been supported in the past discussions with MPCA, but this is a little bit different approach. Very frankly, we think we can come up with innovative solutions in bringing the stakeholders together and coming up with a better future for the Minnesota River.
Very good. Looking for any member questions or comments? Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to the testifier, you talked about a new standard, and you use the word standard in a singular fashion. Would this one standard include standards for various pollutants, or are we looking at a standard?
Well, Mr. Chair, Representative Anderson, the standards that we're looking at is essentially river eutrophication standard is something that would be applied across all rivers. And essentially what we're asking for is that we're looking at a standard site-specific to the Minnesota River. And that, very frankly, that's a risk. It could be lower or it could be above the current standards.
I would point out this bit of information, and I hope this is helpful. As I understand the standards today, the city of Mankato, which is the largest point source, we can meet it. What we're concerned about is it the right standard that will show water quality improvements on the river? And that's, I think, our end goal here is let's get it right if we're being called upon across the 40 point source dischargers that we want to see real water quality improvements. And I think that's been our concern all along. If we're going to make that investment, we want to make the right investment, and we want to see results from it.
Representative Anderson.
Mr. Chair, just a follow-up question on procedure. I think I heard you right when you said this bill was going to be laid over for possible inclusion, yet it contains $1 million in funding. Doesn't this have to go to a finance committee?
Eventually, it certainly may. Representative Look.
I had a question on page 2, line 2.1. As I understand this, if we come up with this standard, then the commissioner has 60 days to recommend approval or denial. Who's he going to recommend that approval to? And does that start rulemaking if assuming that they recommended approval? Can you walk me through how that would work? What's that going to lead to?
Mr. Hendry.
Essentially, Mr. Chair, Representative, at this point in time, the river eutrophication standards are in place. Essentially, if we have a site-specific standard, there will have to be a rulemaking process. No, I correct that. There will not have to be a rulemaking process. This will take the place of what is in place.
Representative Luke?
I guess that while there's a lot of folks involved here, that wouldn't have to go back out for a public look. Yes or no? I mean, if it's no, that's the answer, yes, but that seems like a...
We're calling the bullpen up
short,
here.
Yeah, short stopping.
Please introduce yourself for the record and go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Committee, my name is Daniel Marks. I'm an environmental attorney with the law firm of Flaherty and Hood, and I've been working with the City of Mankato on this matter.
And did you hear the question, or do you need to have that repeated?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, it's my understanding the question is, so if the site-specific standard goes back to the proposal, goes back to the commissioner, kind of what's the process? So under existing law, there is a process for developing site-specific standards. And if the commissioner or the PCA approves the standard, they would essentially issue a preliminary approval or a draft document for a 45-day public notice. So it's different than rulemaking, but there's a public engagement requirement, a part of that. And then that site-specific standard would also require final approval from US EPA before it would become effective in the state of Minnesota.
Understand. Thank you. And then that would then be applied to any and all permits that would be impacted?
Mr. Chair, Representative, so if the site-specific standard were approved by the PCA and then US EPA, that would be assuming that it would apply to the Minnesota River, that would be the applicable eutrophication standard for the Minnesota River that would apply to the point sources on that river.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good, very good. I'm going to go with Representative Wagenius, and then we're going to bring MPCA down to get their testimony.
Thank you. I appreciated you're bringing up some work you were doing. I think you said you were investing $10 million in a specific thing, and I just wanted to hear what you were doing. It was a general statement. Is there some specifics here you can share with us?
Mr. Hendry.
Representative Wagenius, essentially we have a large portion of a watershed that drains into the southern part of Mankato. And that watershed carries a county ditch, a series of agricultural areas. Essentially, what we are doing in place is putting in a large wetland, a large treatment cell. We're investigating bioreactors, essentially filtering the ditch water. And then it goes into a traditional stormwater system. Unfortunately, in Mankato's geography, it flows back out of the city into ravine systems, causing additional runoff. Then it goes to an area before it discharges, and we're creating another level of treatment for that before it discharges into the Blue Earth Le Sueur River system, which ultimately goes into the Minnesota. So this effort is that we've determined that there is a significant amount of treatment in addition to our normal MS4 treatment for phosphorus, nitrates, and suspended solids, that this system will treat prior to getting in the city, going out of the city, and ultimately discharging directly into the river. One of our concerns is we believe there's a lot of opportunities kind of right at the point of discharge for a lot of non-point projects in Minnesota. And I know St. Peter, for example, has a great amount of concern with discharge coming through the city, affecting their well systems, and they're looking at similar management practices. You're seeing that all up and down the river, that municipalities, in concert with their counties, are working on these management best practices projects.
If I could follow up with one question?
Please, Representative Guinian.
Okay, is this a process you're using to protect your drinking water wells?
Mr.
Representative, essentially in this particular case, this watershed that drains goes into another collector well that has historically had nitrate problems also. But the purpose of this essentially is to better manage the rural runoff that comes into the city, into our system, and causes erosion problems, ultimately discharge problems, and flow problems during high flows influences our wells. But it has an impact on our domestic system, but just generally water quality.
Okay, so if I can understand that this, I mean, one of the purposes here is to protect your drinking water wells.
One of Representative, one of the purposes.
Yes, thank you.
Very good. I do have Representative Bowe. I was going to bring MPCA down. Do you want to go first?
I can go first and I'll be quick.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Brands, as a representative for District 47B, which borders the Minnesota River, I applaud the efforts to try to have a positive impact on the river because it does need some help. But a couple of points or questions, I guess, would be the timelines seem fairly tight for some of these action steps to be taken, so I just wondered thoughts on that. Secondly, though, when I see the word trading, I always get really nervous about creating another layer of bureaucracy and a potential impact for farmers with costs and regulatory burden and that sort of thing, and I wonder if you could just address those for me.
Representative Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Bowe. Ultimately, that's why I'm here. I'm here because we want to clean that river. And that's the only reason that this piece of legislation is before us right now in committee, is because I feel strongly that what we're doing isn't working, and this is an opportunity for something different. The timeline is a bit tight, but I think that there are a lot of folks, there are a lot of stakeholders along the Minnesota River that have an interest in water quality. And I think that this particular bill, honestly, I think threads a needle. There are a lot of interests up and down the river that may have competing interests and also interests that are shared. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to have a conversation about what we can do to ultimately create a new standard that's better for our river, better for our communities, better for the folks up and down the river.
Mr. Henry.
Mr. Chair, Representative, we already trade with right now it's seven partners
two of them are some of the larger producers on the river. And so we have a good trading relationship. We believe that there is a lot of opportunities, particularly as we've demonstrated with our project, to do point to non-point source trading. So, again, we're not looking at a mandate. We believe that what we've established has been a good program, has resulted in real water quality, and there are other additional opportunities in the basin for additional non-point to point or point to non-point source trading opportunities that will result in real water quality improvements.
Very good. I'm going to get MPCA down here. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, while their MPC is coming down,
Yeah, Representative Baker.
thank you. The motion on this bill is to lay it over.
Yes, sir.
I would strongly encourage you to change your motion. If we're going to be serious about doing this, okay, we need to move this to one of the finance committees so that we can continue having this conversation. Representative Brand said he feels very strongly about this. I think that if we want to do something more than just have a conversation about it, we actually need to take action on the bill and move it to a finance committee. So, Mr. Chair, I would strongly encourage you to change your motion.
Representative Fabian, I'll consider that, and we'll talk about it again tonight.
Thank you.
And yeah, well, so, okay, we have Pollution Control Agency. Please come forward and introduce yourselves and tell us about how good the bill is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Greta Gothier, Assistant Commissioner, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Thank you for allowing us an opportunity to speak to this bill. I just want to say that we have met with Representative Brand a couple times about this bill and will continue to do so. I'm going to turn it over to one of our staff who has expertise in this area, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Aaron Luckstein, and I'm the manager of the Municipal Wastewater Section at the Pollution Control Agency. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. The agency does have concerns with this bill as it is written. This bill assumes that the Minnesota River needs a site-specific standard because it responds differently to phosphorus than other water bodies. To date, the agency has not seen compelling evidence that that is the case. While we acknowledge and while we are confident that the current standard, which was developed in 2015, is the correct one for this river, we also acknowledge that it is a complex river system. And because of those complexities, people want assurance that the goal is correct. And we are open to learning more about the specifics of the Minnesota River and the factors that do contribute to phosphorus and algal growth in the system. So towards that end, we have been in communication with the city in order for them to achieve their goal of ensuring that the reductions that they make, as well as the reductions that others in the river make, do have a meaningful impact. And ultimately, as we work with the city, that work may show that the Minnesota River does truly act differently than other rivers, and that a site-specific standard is needed. As the city mentioned, that standard could be higher or it could be lower. In considering a site-specific standard for the Minnesota River, the agency needs to consider downstream impacts. The Mississippi River, the St. Croix, and the Minnesota Rivers are all interconnected. We know that in order to achieve our water quality goals in the metro area, as well as at Lake Pepin, that the Minnesota River at around the Jordan area needs to achieve 150 milligrams per liter of phosphorus, or perhaps even lower. So even if analysis shows that phosphorus levels could go up in the Minnesota River, then additional reductions would be needed by downstream users in order to protect those downstream rivers and lakes. So if a site-specific standard is justified by the science, the agency would be happy to proceed in developing one and getting approved by EPA. However, until that happens, we believe that the current language of this bill, which mandates the creation of a site-specific standard, is premature. We look forward to working with the city of Mankato and the other cities to improve the understanding of phosphorus in the Minnesota River, and we will continue those discussions with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luckstein, and Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, just to be clear, then the position of the Walz administration and the MPCA on this particular piece of legislation is you support it, you're neutral, or you're opposed to it?
Ms. Gothier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Fabian. Mr. Chairman, we have concerns with the bill, Representative Fabian, and we are willing to work with the city to explore some of their concerns further. And we do not support the language as it's written right now.
Thank you.
Other member questions, comments? Anybody in the audience that's looking to testify for or against this bill? Seeing none, I'm going to renew my motion. I'm going to amend it just slightly, that we're just going to lay it on the table. And we will take up discussion this evening again on where this legislation is headed. So, Representative Fabian.
We need to vote on a motion to lay it on the table, Mr. Chair.
Now we have to move on. Motion.
Say again? Representative Bryan.
You know, I'm not sure that we need to wait till 7:45 tonight to have more discussion on this bill. You know, I would actually ask that we do move this bill along to the Finance Committee, and we can have more conversations about it at the next stop. Ways to make the bill better, honestly, as well. Whatever works best. I realize that this bill threads an interesting needle, but there are a lot of players up and down the Minnesota River that have asked previous administrations, the previous governor, for this, and we haven't gotten anywhere. And we're hopeful with this new leadership and the new opportunities that exist, we can actually bend their ear and get this going.
Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You could lay it on the table, but I will move to lay it on the table.
Very good. We have the motion in front of us to lay the bill on the table. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Lay the bill on the table. Thank you, Representative Brand.
Confusing us. I don't know what's happening.
And we aren't adjourning. We are going to recess until 7:45, 7:45 this evening.